Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're totally flipping the script on how we look at the human body. If you've ever stared at a textbook diagram and thought of the body as just a static collection of parts, we are going to completely change that perspective. We're going to explore how the physical architecture of our bodies, the blueprint, actually provides the perfect staging ground for a highly dynamic, living machine. It's time to see what actually breathes life into all those bones and tissues. Here is our roadmap for the breakdown today. We'll start with anatomy versus physiology, then see how form follows function, dig into the drive for homeostasis, map out the 11 organ systems, and finally look at physiology in action.
All right, let's jump into part 1, anatomy versus physiology.
So right off the bat, we have this fundamental contrast between the what and the how. Anatomy is the what. The word actually comes from a Greek root meaning to cut apart. It's the static physical structure, the bones, the organs, the tissues. Physiology, on the other hand, is the how, it's the function. It's the highly dynamic chemistry and physics that actually make that structure work. Without the dynamic processes of physiology, the anatomical blueprint is, well, just a lifeless shell. Think of anatomy as mapping out an engine block, but physiology, that's the explosive combustion happening inside that actually makes the car move. To really understand the blueprint, anatomists have to zoom in and out. They look at gross anatomy, which is the macroscopic stuff you can see with the naked eye, like your brain or a femur. But then they zoom all the way down to microscopic anatomy. That includes cytology, which is the study of individual cells, and histology, the study of tissues. We also organize this by region, like looking strictly at the abdomen, or by system, like studying all the muscles together. But just staring at the static blueprint wasn't enough to really figure out how life works. Back in the 19th century, this pioneering French physiologist named Claude Bernard hit on something massive. He coined the concept of the milieu intérieur, the internal environment. He realized that while the outside world is chaotic and constantly changing, the internal physiological environment of our bodies is a distinctly separate, heavily regulated space. It was a total game changer. It proved the body isn't just a passive structure. It's an active, defensive, living environment.
That brings us to part 2, form follows function.
This is an absolutely crucial concept. The rule is that form strictly follows function. Take your eyelid, for example. Structurally, it's just a super thin flap of tissue. But why is it so thin? Because its physiological job requires it to snap down instantly to clear dust from your eye and then immediately slide back up so you can see. The highly specific microscopic arrangement of nerves and muscles there gives it the ability to react in a fraction of a second. The physical shape exists purely to serve the physiological action. We see this perfectly with the human hands, too. If you somehow didn't know what a hand did, its anatomy would look pretty bizarre. But its unique structure, specifically the alignment of the thumb in opposition to your other fingers, is exactly what makes its physiology possible. That form allows you to physically pinch, grasp a tool, or, type out a text message on your phone. Again, the structure completely dictates the action. Moving right along to part 3, the drive for homeostasis. Homeostasis is kind of the unsung hero of our whole physiological story. Building on Claude Bernard's work, the American physiologist Walter Cannon came up with this term. It describes the steady state of internal balance that the body is actively working to maintain. And let me tell you, it is a constant, exhausting battle. It takes a massive amount of energy to keep your internal stability perfectly balanced against a relentless, chaotic outside world. For instance, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a number we all know, right? It's a highly relatable physiological set point. Your body considers this the absolute ideal temperature for all your vital chemical reactions to happen. Pretty much everything your physiology does regarding temperature is just desperately trying to keep you right around this exact number. But what happens when things go haywire? Say you get a sudden infection, or you're out in extreme heat, and your internal temperature violently spikes to 102.5. Instantly, your body's dynamic machinery kicks into high gear. You start sweating frantically, your blood vessels dilate, your physiology triggers this massive cascade of mechanisms designed solely to dump that heat. And then, relief as it restores that 98.6 degree baseline. This continuous loop of disruption and rapid correction, that is the essence of physiological survival.
All right, let's look at part 4, the 11 organ systems. To pull off this constant balancing act, we have 11 systems, and it helps to group them by their day jobs. First up, we've got the cardiovascular, respiratory, digestive, and urinary systems. Think of these 4 as the body's transport, processing, and maintenance crew. Now, these are massive anatomical structures, but they are completely enslaved to a microscopic need, getting oxygen and nutrients to individual cells. The digestive system brings in the food, respiratory brings in the oxygen, cardiovascular ships it all via the blood, and the urinary system takes out the trash, filtering metabolic waste to maintain your fluid and pH balance.
Next up is the structural and defense crew, the integumentary, skeletal, muscular, and lymphatic systems. Your integumentary system, that's your skin, is your primary protective barrier. Your skeletal and muscular systems give the body its shape and let you actually move around your environment. And the lymphatic system? That's your immune surveillance network. It is constantly actively hunting down any threats that manage to breach your borders. Finally, we have the management and legacy systems. The nervous and endocrine systems act as the absolute physiological masterminds. They perceive the outside world, send out lightning-fast electrical and chemical signals, and basically boss all the other systems around to ensure homeostasis is maintained. And lastly, the reproductive system is there to ensure the continuation of the human organism itself. Let's wrap things up with part 5, physiology in action. Let's use the muscular system as a quick case study here. Muscles aren't just for lifting weights or walking. Muscle tissue is responsible for vasoconstriction, literally narrowing your blood vessels to precisely regulate your blood pressure. It moves food through your digestive tract using a wave-like motion called peristalsis. And get this, regarding that 98.6 degrees we talked about earlier, 75% of the cellular ATP energy used during a muscle contraction is released as heat. Literally 75%. Your muscles are actually physiological furnaces, keeping your core body temperature from dropping. It's the ultimate example of physiology dominating anatomy, generating heat for survival. But how does a muscle actually physically move? The chemistry behind it is explained by the sliding filament theory. At a microscopic scale, specific protein filaments inside the muscle cell use that ATP energy to literally slide and ratchet past one another. Just think about the sheer scale of this for a second. Every single time you blink or take a step or your heart beats, trillions of microscopic proteins are ratcheting past each other at the exact same time. This repeating microscopic process of chemical contraction and relaxation is the fundamental engine driving all human motion. It is pure physics and chemistry perfectly executing within an anatomical framework.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather mind-blowing thought. How do trillions of individual microscopic cells, organizing into distinct tissues, complex organs, and 11 beautifully orchestrated systems, all perfectly coordinate to maintain that ultimate goal of homeostasis? This incredible transition from a static blueprint to a dynamic, living machine is completely synchronized to keep you alive against all odds. So the next time you just sit and breathe, ask yourself, what other microscopic, physiological miracles are happening inside your own body right now just to allow you to exist? Keep questioning the incredible machine that is you, and I'll catch you next time.